Hey everyone, before we dive in, I wanted to add a bit of a disclaimer to acknowledge the sensitive nature of this video. We'll be exploring the aftermath of 9/11 through my family's home videos, footage shot in the very neighborhood that I grew up in. Some of these images could be disturbing, so please click away if you need to, and I appreciate you checking out the video in the first place. I wanted to acknowledge that this video is also coming out at a time when people across the planet are living under extremely violent and genocidal conditions, and I don't want to take away from that, and I don't want to ignore that because some of the images you are going to see are people's daily reality in a way that my coddled American brain can't understand or comprehend or fathom. I just wanted to acknowledge that up front, but having gotten all that out of the way, let's jump in. In the early days of this channel, I was dedicated to solely making content about Tom Clancy's The Division. I even made a video arguing that Massive's not inspired by or based on claim about 9/11 seemed untrue. And that was because they created such a faithful recreation of what I saw in New York City through multiple catastrophic events, such as the blackouts of the early 2000s.
And New York's main post office in Midtown turned into a massive encampment.
Hurricane Sandy, 9/11, and since the making of that video, COVID. Those experiences shaped how I saw The Division's recreation of a ravaged city. After rewatching that video and jumping into the Warlords of New York DLC, I've realized why I don't like The Division 2, at least I didn't when it launched. And it's because Washington, D.C. didn't feel like a compelling setting for me. And I think the sales numbers might speak to that as well, as according to a few sources, it seems like The Division 1 simply sold better. For me, at the time when the game released, I didn't feel motivated by the prospect of saving anyone in Washington, D.C. I also didn't want to jump into a world that was ravaged by a viral outbreak because, well,
Coronavirus. With over 11,000 diagnosed with coronavirus, New York has nearly half the confirmed cases in the entire country.
Those were two humongous reasons that kind of put me off of the game, personally. That is, until the Warlords of New York DLC. It was surreal. Shooting it out in the park I played in as a kid, seeing my home in rubble again, but this time in a virtual wasteland. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was a gut punch. To see your home in rubble for a second time in a completely different way. I hadn't seen my neighborhood in such a state since the very real events in 2001. Seeing familiar streets turned apocalyptic honestly shocked me at first, but it also ignited a fire in me to help everyone I could in the game. A core theme in The Division that makes the core gameplay loop sing. Saving NPCs, building safe houses, scavenging every corner. It all felt so much more real in New York City. The density, the grit, the sort of verticality that landscape affords is unmatched. Massive absolutely nailed Lower Manhattan, from the missing persons posters to makeshift memorials, seeing NPCs huddled together, consoling one another, it all felt real. These were touch points that just mirrored reality so well. And the factions like the JTF carving out sanctuaries. As someone who witnessed that struggle firsthand, it resonated deeply.
You're gonna need to get a light. Garbage bags stacked up right there on the
What kind of lighting do you need?
Well, we need the generators brought over from outside the Octagon building. Okay, there's 4 generators gassed up, Alex said.
It grounded me in the game and made me want to play more, complete everything. That's something I never felt with the base game in Washington, D.C. And I understand that this is a very niche case of someone getting to play through their hometown. But I also feel like the political climate around the game's launch, and the actual pandemic outbreak, and even just the fact that images like that of 9/11 loom so large in the American imagination, all lent to The Division 2's launch not performing maybe as well as Massive or Ubisoft might have hoped. But for now, I'll continue playing through the Warlords of New York. I'll continue trudging through some of my hometown, among landmarks and places that hold a lot of memories for me, and trying to save it. I understand that all of those things make me incredibly biased, but I also feel like New York City works so well as a setting in The Division 1 that it's now inseparable from The Division itself. This brings me to The Division 3, if we ever get one. Where can it go and what do I want to see from it? For The Division 3, I wish Massive would add on to the systems we already have. Another wish I always had from the original that never really came to fruition was being able to create safe houses with your friends, that you all pour your resources into and try to improve upon, even allowing you to do that with your clan. Setting up shop in a place of your choosing across Manhattan, and just improving that with your buddies. It seems like that would be such a fun time. Or, I don't know, take The Division outside the US completely, show me someone else's hometown. Either way, I'm sure Massive will do it justice.